What is up, guys? Wrestling Premiere is here. Okay, this was a weird one. When you look at it on paper, it feels like a feud of the decade. Not in terms of legendary, like the feud, the build up, the match, everything like that. Like in terms of being memorable, like it's gonna be something you remember. The most memorable moment wasn't even the match itself. It was the RKO atop the car, right? Maybe it's just me, but it just wasn't that memorable. I feel it could have been much more grander. I mean, it was a SummerSlam match. Hogan was like 4-0 at this point. He was undefeated at SummerSlam. Orton was the legend killer. I think could have made for something even more memorable. Today I decided to cover this one because, well, I had my reasons. One, Hulk Hogan had yet to be featured on the channel, and I haven't done something on Orton since August. Another thing to mention is that nobody seems to give a damn about this again. I don't know why. They always care about the HBK and Hogan feud. This one's usually left out. I don't know why. So how did this thing get started? Well, first of all, Hulk Hogan at this point was talking up a big deal outside the company. He was desperately eyeing a WrestleMania match with Stone Cold, who had -1 interest in this because, for one, he was unsure if he can deliver, and two, he knows Hogan sure as hell won't lay down. Randy Orton, on the other hand, was really hated in the back. He had all the potential in the world, but his behavior wasn't helping, and at this point, he had just returned from a 60-day suspension. His act had long ways to go before it changed. Despite this, he was still given opportunities to shine. Okay, here we go. On the June 26, 2006 episode of Raw, WWE premiered Brooke Hogan's first music video, About Us. If you're wondering, the song peaked at number 33 on the Billboard Hot 100. I mean, number 33, that's good. After the premiere, Orton had a smile on his face, and for some reason this wasn't on the network. I assume because of copyright and whatnot, because of record labels and all that stuff. Yeah. Anyways, next week, Randy Orton comes out to say a few words, and he straight up mentioned the Brooke Hogan music video and how she's 18. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. She turned 18 like only a few months earlier. He said that there's no going around it, but she's hot. He said that if things work the way he wants it to be, she's gonna find out why he's a legend, and if her daddy has a problem with that, then he'll find out firsthand why he is a legend killer. So Orton had a thing for Hulk Hogan's 18-year-old daughter. Okay. One thing to mention is that Hogan had this show during this time period. You might know it. It goes by the name of Hogan Knows Best. It was on VH1. I might dive into it. This family were featured and all that, so Brooke was somewhat known. The problem with her being mentioned on TV, while the music company weren't too thrilled, and the others in the back weren't exactly excited about it. And this is what the Wrestling Observer had to say about the Hulk Hogan and Randy Orton match. Here's what the plans were. Tentative plans. Call for Hulk Hogan versus Randy Orton at the SummerSlam pay-per-view in August, which is more than 7 months prior to the WrestleMania event Orton initially believed would feature the match. Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan met last weekend about the angle, and unless some unexpected problems arises, they do, it is a go and will be hot-shotted on TV in the coming weeks. The two ideas thrown around, both of which give Brooke Hogan exposure as a musician, as a sex symbol, where that Orton would either pursue Brooke, leading up to Hulk coming to her aid, or that Orton and Brooke would actually begin dating on television, infuriating Hulk and forcing a matchup. Hulk Hogan has full creative control, forgot about that, so the vision of the outcome will not be contested. I really love making videos just for small information like this. Like, I literally learn something every day. Orton versus Hogan at WrestleMania 23. I think that would have gone down better than what we got, honestly. It would have been much more grander. They would have forced it to be much more grander than the SummerSlam build. That's what I think. Also, Hogan having creative control was a terrible thing. It essentially meant www. He was going to win every big match there was. I mean, he won the SummerSlam bout. And this one, it seems very gloomy for Randy Orton. Shortly afterwards, Hulk Hogan and his daughter were announced for Saturday night's main event. Orton was excited at this appearance because he was ready to introduce himself to Hogan as the legend killer. About the show, WWE and NBC weren't exactly on the best terms. The show's return in March flopped from a rating standpoint, and so Hogan's appearance was going to be a way to draw ratings. Anyways, the Hulkster kicked off the show with his daughter. He handed her the mic, and she said that she's always dreamed of this moment to stand next to her father in the ring. She thought it was an honor to be here, and she thanked the fans. As for Hogan, he mentioned how he was in the first Saturday night's main event, and out came Randy Orton with a rose in hand. He apologized for the interruption, but said that there was no way he was going to pass up the opportunity to stand side by side with the biggest legend in this industry. And of course, he was here to give that rose to Brooke. Hogan chants intensified, and Orton then made the challenge. Since you're a legend and I'm the legend killer, I'd like to respectfully challenge you to a match at SummerSlam. Also, look at Hogan's face. He knew damn well that he was winning. Just look at it. Hogan respectfully accepted it, and it was on. Legend versus the Legend Killer, SummerSlam. Later in the night, Orton's chatting with Brooke when Hogan slaps his back and tells him, we'll meet at SummerSlam. Orton's all worried, yet respectful at the same time. And as Orton walks to his car door, boom, RKO. Brooke comes in, asks Orton, what happened? I mean, what do you think? He doesn't respond to the question. JR was calling it a classless, conceited act, and the Legend Killer did explain his actions on Raw that week. First of all, he said that he wouldn't take advantage of Hogan's daughter. Once again, he was drooling over her, talking about how he'll buy her CD and how About Us was actually one of his favorite songs. And he was still trying to get with her despite the incident from Saturday. Then he showed footage of the RKO. The next week, the Hulkster finally made his return to Raw. The crowd was completely rabid, and they were very happy to see Hogan, and at one point, by the sounds of it, JR was giving him a standing ovation. Hogan acknowledged this and said that Randy Orton's in a hell of a lot of trouble. He wasn't proud of Orton lecturing him about respect, and he thought it was ironic because, well, Orton doesn't have any respect for the fans and tradition. And at SummerSlam, when Orton gets into that ring and feels the power of the world's largest arms, he's gonna learn what the word respect means with a capital R. And Burden by Light plays, and out he came. The Legend Killer said that he wasn't out here to confront Hulk, but to talk about his daughter. He thought there was a lot of chemistry there between himself and Brooke. He took a jab at Hulk's age, and he made it seem like Brooke adored him or something. The only regret from this budding relationship in his eyes was that she was going to see him destroy the legend of Hulkamania. Hulkster wanted to do this right then and there, and so did Orton, but he decides, you know what, not tonight. At one point, he bumps into Jerry Lawler and shouts at him, and this will come back to bite him because the King tossed him right back in the ring when the Hulkster delivered a few blows. He could have hit the boot though. Since Randy was butthurt, he decided to make a mockery out of the Hogan family. Orton claimed that after destroying the legend of Hogan, he'll star in some movies, release some books, and funny enough, he claims to be a part of a new reality show called Orton Knows Best. And then the music played, and out came the budget Hogan family. He let them shine for 15 seconds before asking them the questions. Hogan Hulk shouted at Orton and reminded him of SummerSlam. And the Legend Killer basically saw SummerSlam as the end of Hogan's career. He was promising to end the Hulkster on August 20th. Then he kissed the daughter. And Hulkster got angry and received an RKO. That's it. Orton then proceeded to slap the King. And of course, this would upset him. And seeing as Raw was in Memphis, he made the challenge. He wanted Randy Orton, and he wanted to whip a little respect into him. Now, there was a huge issue that had occurred during the build-up to the SummerSlam match. Hogan had an issue in his right knee. He tore his right meniscus. He had an MRI, and basically, he couldn't make it to Raw that week. He had a slight tear, but decided, you know what, I'm going to delay that surgery till later on, till after SummerSlam. How did this happen? He was sitting down on his couch and was going to get something or whatnot, and boom, he tore it right then and there. The next day, he appeared on Regis and Kelly, and if this report is to be believed, Hogan claimed that while he was dancing on the show, he nearly blew out his knee. Then again, others thought, you know what, this might be a work. He's faking it to get what he wants. They mentioned it on TV, and Orton was under the belief that the Hulkster was just too scared to face him. They mentioned the injury, not the Regis and Kelly thing. He thought that Hogan knew best not to face him. Legend Killer, however, warned him, saying that if he thinks of coming back, his legend will be killed. He then proceeded to destroy Jerry the King Lawler in his own hometown. On the final Raw before SummerSlam, Randy Orton made a challenge to the Immortal One. He realized that the knee was a red and yellow target and wanted to do more damage. Orton believed that Hogan was smart not to come out because he was going to get his ass beat 6 nights before SummerSlam. Hell, he even admitted that Hogan was the one who inspired him to be the Legend Killer. He saw him come out with the same old tired act, and all these people cheered, and he didn't get it. He didn't understand why in the hell did they like this guy. And back then, he decided to make a promise to himself that he will be the one who destroys Hulkamania forever. Basically, Randy Orton was looking forward to this Sunday his entire life. All it was going to take, in his eyes, was one RKO to end it all. Then the music played when it comes crashing down. But it wasn't Hulk Hogan that came out, it was Hogan Hulk. Once again, he cut a promo about how Orton will kill his own legend. He made fun of himself, and he talked and talked and talked until a real Hogan came on. The fans were quite skeptical, but once they saw his face, that was it. Orton was done before he even knew it. He quickly tried making the attack, but the man was unstoppable despite the knee. He got rid of him and tore the Hulkster in half. Then Hogan grabbed the mic and said that Orton could come out and joke along. But when he comes out here and insults himself and his family, the Hulkamaniacs, that's something else. Then he said that Randy Orton can't kill the legend of Hulkamania. And there's only one question he's got to ask himself. What you gonna do when the power of all these millions of Hulkamaniacs run wild on you? So that's the build-up. It wasn't as grand as the HBK one. Come to think about it, there was only one moment that's remembered from this one, and that was the RKO. With HBK, there was a couple of things, super kick, Piper's Pit, Larry King parody, and of course, Oh Canada. And I highly doubt anybody believed Orton was winning. I mean, just looking at what the people were thinking on the internet, they doubted Orton was going to win. They felt Hogan was going to politic and force them to book him as a winner. The match itself was actually the reason why Hogan left WWE for 7 years. I'll get into it. About the match, it wasn't as good as the HBK encounter. They were just going through the motions. Maybe Orton didn't care because he wasn't winning. That's what we got. There wasn't that much effort. I believe he did oversell a little like HBK, but it just didn't have that vibe, that feeling that the main event of SummerSlam 2005 had. When you hear Hulk Hogan versus Randy Orton, you're expecting something else. At times, I forget this match even happened. Hulkster did receive the loudest reaction, though. That's one thing he wasn't lying about. The start of the match saw Orton target that knee. Hogan struggles, makes a small comeback, but takes an RKO. Foot is on the rope. Orton thinks he's won it. Hogan hulks up. Boot, leg drop, and that's a wrap. And the crowd was absolutely electric. They were very happy to see Hogan win. That's one thing to mention. Now, the results of the match seems quite odd. Not only that, but they didn't accomplish much with this. We all know who to blame for that, right? Even though Orton lost, I still think he should have hit an RKO afterwards. I think it would have made sense. Like, it would have showed that he's a sore loser, that didn't accomplish what he did, but at the same time, he did what he said he was going to do, and that's, well, destroy Hulkamania. He didn't kill him, but he still got one over him, even though he lost. That's what I feel. But he probably didn't want that either. He did a 5-minute celebration and walked to the back. Rumors going around were that Hogan feigned or over-exaggerated the extent of his knee injury in order to politic, because there was some worry that the match wasn't going to happen, and the ball was in his court. In an interview with The Sun back in August of 2007, Hulk Hogan spoke about this match and how it led to his departure from WWE. And I quote, "Last year at SummerSlam, I fought Randy Orton, and me and Vince had some problems with the money. Before SummerSlam, I was a little worried because instead of being in the main event match, I was on fourth against Orton. When I heard about the first 3 matches at the Fleet Center in Boston, it sounded like a funeral, and when I listened to the crowd reactions to those matches, it did sound like a funeral. Then when my music came on, it was like the old days. People were stood up. It was electric. Randy is a great, hard-working wrestler, and we fought an old-school style match. That was the most exciting match I've ever had in the Fleet Center. I wrestled Steve Borden, Sting, in a cage, which was a great match in my opinion at least, but this one was better. As after second guessing, I was like, oh my god, it still works. Then Vince went out with his son and wrestled Triple H and Shawn Michaels, and it was dead again. Cena went on for the main event, people started leaving. I felt bad when the night ended, as they should have put me on later. But it was the money that really got to me. I swore I would never talk about the money again with Vince, because that's what we always argue about. When I saw the amount, I was like, that's like one of my driver's paychecks. So I had to say something. He replied, well, you're not the only big guy anymore. There are now 12 big guys. I said, well, if that's the case, let me explain something to you. I heard the first 3 matches and the crowd response was nothing. I wrestled and I heard what happened, and then I heard your match, Vince, and nothing. And I saw Cena and people were leaving. I had a hard time getting out of the building because of all the people marching through. So where are the other 11 big guys you're splitting my money with? Hogan, bro, who are you lying to? I mean, I will admit, he did receive the loudest pop of the night, but to say there was crickets, come on, you're over-exaggerating. Then again, he claims to have almost joined Metallica. Also, does that crowd seriously look empty? Look at the damn Fleet Center. Maybe the other side might have been empty. I doubt it though, because from this perspective, it does look jam-packed. Now, I will mention something that is funny that relates to Hogan though. Later on in the night, DX tried to get an even bigger pop. Triple H specifically is like, come on, this is Boston, are you ready? But he failed. But yeah, Hogan, he got one over DX. That's one thing to mention. Triple H won't admit it, but he did receive a louder pop than he did that night. Overall, this was something. Hogan looked out for one man, and that was himself. His relationship was strained with the company afterwards because he thought it was still 1987. WrestleMania 23 plans did include him initially, but he didn't like what they were offering, be it the cash or the opponent Shane McMahon. Big Show was also considered, but he was burnt out. He couldn't make it until then. He made one more appearance on the 15th anniversary of Raw before disappearing down to Florida for 6 years. Also, the Jillian Hall character may or may not be related to Brooke Hogan. Take it as you will. Yeah, me personally, what's my opinion on this feud? I think it should have gone down with Orton. He should have been the one to RKO Hulk and score the W. Or he should have stood tall in the end. Regardless, Orton should have been the one standing in the end. Doesn't matter how it is, but he should have. He wasn't hurt by this. He wasn't buried because only a couple of weeks later, destroyed Carlito and then formed Raid RKO. But it could have been a cool thing for Orton to brag about. I beat Hulk Hogan and got rid of him, or something like that. It would have helped a little. But hey, no biggie. He wasn't hurt. He wasn't hurt from this, but Hogan should have lost in the end, so yeah. What do you guys think of this feud? Please comment down below. And that's it for this video. Make sure you hit an RKO on the like button and perhaps leg drop on the subscribe button. Peace. I'm out.